Hey guys, Mike jumping in really fast before we get to today's episode. Re-recorded this episode of The Good Brothers on September 23rd, 2020. That was a Wednesday. Since that happened, some big news came down the pipeline on some of the subjects we talked about on this very episode. And one of those things being Black Widow being delayed to 2021. This comes to us from our friends over at The Verge. In a predictable fashion, Disney is delaying Black Widow to 2021 as the company continues to navigate the current theatrical landscape during the COVID-19 pandemic. This marks the first time since 2009 that a Marvel Cinematic Universe movie hasn't been released in a calendar year. Black Widow will now open on May 7th, 2021. More than 1 year after its originally scheduled release date. Like with other Marvel delays, Black Widow's new date pushes Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings back from its May 7th, 2021 release date to July 9th, 2021. The Eternals, which was to follow Black Widow, is moving from February 12th, 2021 to November 5th, 2021. A number of other Disney films, including West Side Story and The King's Men, were also moved around as part of the shuffle. So that is some major news that we'll keep our eye on. We will talk about that on next week's episode with the Good Brother, kind of get his thoughts on what this means for the theater industry, not just for movies and release dates and Disney Plus, but what actually is going to happen in the industry, and one of the places we all love to go to as a community in the movie fandom. So some major news, Black Widow delayed to 2021. Some other major news that dropped after we recorded this episode of The Good Brothers. This comes to us from our friends at Variety, as HBO Max has given a straight-to-series order for Peacemaker, a spin-off from the upcoming Suicide Squad film. John Cena will play the title role, reprising his role from the film. The film's writer and director, James Gunn, will also write the series and direct multiple episodes, including the pilot. HBO Max has ordered 8 episodes of the show based on the DC Comics character, which is described as an action-adventure comedy. So awesome news for John Cena, a big get for the man who is now really leaving the wrestling industry, and we have seen him dip his toes in comedy. We've seen him dip his toes in action, and now it looks like Warner Brothers is putting their money on John Cena, and they must love what they've seen in the filming of Suicide Squad, because they are definitely giving him the mantle and the torch to have his own series. So shout out to John Cena, James Gunn. We are getting ourselves a spin-off series of Suicide Squad in Peacemaker. And finally, The Boys is also getting a spin-off. This comes to us from Deadline. Amazon's superhero series, The Boys, is getting a spin-off set in Superhero College. The project, written by The Boys executive producer Craig Rosenberg, had been in works for a while. It is being fast-tracked in light of the success of the original series' second season, which marked the most watched global launch of an Amazon original series ever. The Boys' first season already had set a high viewership mark for Amazon when it debuted in summer of 2019. In the first 2 weeks, season 2 has nearly doubled the season 1 worldwide audience, drawing millions of new viewers each week. And we will have our breakdown of the latest episode of The Boys next week. I absolutely love it, but no spoilers. I know you guys are just getting to it, so we'll talk about that. With all that, though, down in the way, we get back to our regularly scheduled program here on The Good Brothers on the Mercado Airwaves Network.
And here we go.
Get ready, get set for the best movie and pop culture talk in the universe. It's The Good Brothers on Mercado Airwaves with your hosts, Alex Mercado and Mike Mercado.
Welcome back to another episode of The Good Brothers. I'm Alex, that's Mike. I am back, Mike is back. We're here to talk about everything pop culture in the zeitgeist, in the universe, in the multiverse, the pigverse, and the zombieverse. Check out Murder Mysteries and more for that episode. Mike, say hi to the folks.
Hi, folks. Mike. Good Brother, we are the best damn podcast in Chicago, and we get to do something that's super fun because the best damn TV shows and limited TV shows have their winners. You have some reviews, and we have to pay our respects to two legends. All that and so much more on this episode of The Good Brothers. But we'll start off with one of the biggest stories of the week, and that was we have ourselves some winners. We have some gold going around. We have Schitt's Creek winning Best Comedy, Best Drama, Succession, Best Limited Series, Watchmen, Catherine O'Hara winning Best Actress in Economy, Eugene Levy, Best Actor in Economy, Zendaya, Best Actress in a Drama in Euphoria, and Regina King from Watchmen, Jeremy Strong from Succession. So a lot of heavy hitters winning some awesome awards. Mark Ruffalo for I Know This Much Is True, Best Actor in a Limited Series or TV Movie. Annie Murphy for Schitt's Creek, Daniel Levy for Schitt's Creek, and Julia Garner for Ozark. Billy Crudup for The Morning Show, Uza Uduba for Mrs. America, and of course, Best Actor in a Limited Series or Movie, Yahya
Abdul-Mateen,
my man from Watchmen. Good brother.
Black
These
Manta
are just
himself. Too.
Yes, he is the man, the myth, and he will be Candyman, of course,
and
later on.
He'll come up later in the show with the Chicago 7.
So why don't we go ahead and talk about, you hear this entire list. What are your thoughts about the Emmys 2020 COVID-19 winners?
I think the Emmys the last 3 years have been so good. Obviously, the show, is it the appropriate time for an award show? Obviously, probably not. But we have sports. We have everything's back in production. I'm not going to tell you not to have an award. They obviously handled it the way they did. They sent cameras. And I'm talking about 6K cameras. I know. There's a 6K people.
Crazy, the technology.
They sent people in hazmat suits. And, they handled it well. If you're going to put an award show on, at least they did it well. The Emmys are usually very good, especially the last 3 years, about going 100 for 100 with their award nominations and their winners. I think this year was even better than usual. Let's go through that list. Schitt's Creek, good for them. They basically won every award they were in. They won.
I actually have seen Schitt's Creek. I've seen it with the lovely Nicole Mancha.
Good for them.
Wonderful show.
Yeah, good for
legitimately
Pop TV,
a wonderful
good for
show.
them. Mm-hmm. They deserved all 7. They got all 7. Watchmen getting a lot of well-deserved ones. Ozark getting the one they deserved. They did get nominated quite a bit. It was one of those stories where they got nominated about 18 times, and they won the one, which I don't see as that bad because we do have 2 more seasons of it, and it was a very competitive year. Good on Mark Ruffalo receiving his Emmy. He did a great role. He played 2 separate roles, one mentally sick brother and a normal one, quote-unquote normal. So I really think they hit on every level. Zendaya getting a well-deserved one.
Youngest ever winner.
Yeah.
In that category, I think.
Yep. It was fantastic. The show itself was what it was. I think you definitely need an audience for an award show if you're going to watch. Like, award shows aren't getting the numbers they used to anyway, unless you're, for some reason, MTV. But I enjoyed the winners, and I think they really nailed it this year on everyone who won really deserved it. I'm a little interested that the only thing I would say is I thought Modern Family would have got a little more love because it was ending, but I think it goes to show you when you end on such a whimper, no matter how many years, if Modern Family probably brought back the 30-minute sitcom family drama, it not only did it revitalize it, it created a whole new genre.
Yeah.
I think it shows you, even if you go for this many years, if you start whimpering at the end, you're still not going to win necessarily. Rick and Morty, another one. They've won their, I don't know how many Emmys they have now.
Up against, and they've become the new, for the longest time it was The Simpsons, then it became South Park, and now
Bob's Burgers for a little bit.
And Archer, and now it's become Rick and Morty. It's kind of like the torchbearer of
well deserved. It was a fantastic season with fantastic episodes. I really can't think of anyone that I think got snubbed or a program that should have won more than other. Succession with a lot of success. One of the, that's kind of the new water cooler talk. HBO bringing 30 Emmys home. People who say HBO is not the prime of the prime, I think this shows you every year, no, they really are the top dog still.
And they're going to be the early favorites next year because I think Lovecraft Country is going to be the one that
it'll at least win the actress. The girl in Lovecraft Country, she'll win for actress. I could see them winning a lot of actor-based awards and show-based awards. Yeah. You're right. Going into next year,
that's your early favorite.
And the other one, because now they have HBO Now and HBO Max. So one can go to HBO Max and Dances with Wolves or
Raised by Wolves.
Raised by Wolves. Sorry, Dances with Wolves. Wrong movie. That's an Oscar. Raised by Wolves is another one that's getting a lot of love. And what's interesting with HBO is they usually are really good about, we'll put out one show, then the next. Like, here's Mark Ruffalo's miniseries. Now we'll give you Lovecraft. Then we'll give you Raised by Wolves. With HBO Max being slightly different than HBO, I think it's fascinating to see where that's going to go next year now you're putting counter-programming against yourself. I think when it comes to streaming, we're going to see them all they've already seen it with DC, where DC is taking their app, that's going to be comic-based, and they're moving everything to HBO. So we're getting Titans and Harley Quinn exclusively on HBO Max. I think you're starting to notice that these companies are like, that really didn't work. Let's just combine it with everything.
I want to just give a couple more love to Maya Rudolph, winning Best Actress in a Comedy, Guest Actress, Unstructured Reality Program. Cheer for Netflix wins an award.
Yeah, good for them.
I want to talk about Eddie Murphy gets a Guest Actor Comedy Award for Saturday Night Live. You know his first ever Emmy?
Yes, him and Maya Rudolph.
Very interesting.
All very heavily nominated, and both of them got their first Emmys. Maya Rudolph for Big Mouth.
Yeah, and which she deserved completely.
A bubble bath.
The Last Dance, best documentary or nonfiction series,
Come
which
on.
means it's the favorite going into for Oscar.
It should.
I think.
I don't think there's been a doc this year that could even touch it. It's like if OJ Made in America had a baby with the best 30 for 30s ever made.
Absolutely. So any final thoughts of the Emmys 2020? We talked a little bit about thinking that Lovecraft Country definitely is the favorite going into it next season. But this season, champions have been determined. People have climbed the mountaintop, and we have winners. The Levies, awesome. So happy for Eugene Levy, like everybody's favorite dad. And I think, obviously, Watchmen, Regina King is a queen of kings. Like, she is amazing. She has won an Emmy or an Oscar in the last 5 years.
Yeah, at this point, she's almost the Meryl Streep of TV. And even now, she dips her toe into film. She's great. Regina King's one of my favorite actresses working right now. Last shout out to Mandalorian, winning all their sound and editing. And their music producer actually is the hardest one Tony away from winning his EGOT.
And he probably would, because he's such a creative music.
What I hear, it's always hardest for actors. The Grammy's the hardest one, and usually for a music producer, it's the Tony.
Interesting,
because it's a stage play, so it's a little different. So I think that's fascinating. Like, it goes to show you that, like,
he's
just
young.
because a lot of people have EGOTs, they are extremely impressive. It's like a triple crown. It's like throwing a perfect game where, like, it doesn't happen a lot.
But how many of them have an Oscar and an NBA final?
Mr. Kobe Bryant.
Good, brother. Let's talk a little bit about Mandalorian before we get into new news. Obviously, last week, thank you so much, by the way, for coming back to the show this week. We hope that you guys are all doing okay. Sending love to you and the staff and the team. Mandalorian, you didn't get a chance to talk about it. Gush about the trailer or what you thought of it.
It looks great. I'm very excited about it. I don't know if you've heard this, but, like, obviously it's out there that there was behind-the-scenes drama, and I think a lot of you're either in two camps where you're a very diehard fan and you don't want to admit there might be issues with your favorite Star Wars show. Talking to you, Christian Harloff, love the man, but I think sometimes we get biased in both ways where, there's always drama, especially with someone who has to wear a mask the whole time. So when you get so many outlets saying there's drama, I'm on the opposite end where, I think there probably is drama like any movie set in the world, like any job. Do I think it's going to affect the show? Not at all. But to say that there's no drama behind the scenes, like, there isn't even perfect movies and shows had drama behind the scenes. So I don't like the stigma of, well, you can't have drama and it'd be a good show. Well, no, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of drama we never hear about.
How many championships are won in real sports where there's drama in the locker room?
I mean, look at Christian Bale when he was making The Dark Knight. Like, everyone knows Christian Bale is a very intense actor.
A little prickly.
Yeah, so, like, I don't like hearing, like, I just feel like you can be both. You can have, Pedro Pascal probably doesn't want to have to wear the suit as much as he does. And when he signed up, he's like, wait, I have to wear the mask the entire run of the show, or at least till season 3. I can see that being an issue. Gina Carano, I know that's an issue. I'm not going to, let's not bury the lead. Like, you can like The Mandalorian and think it's the best Star Wars we've gotten in years. I don't agree with that. I love it. I think it's great Star Wars.
Yeah.
I think it's very much a lot of old school fans being like, well, this is my Star Wars. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess, but it's still new.
Yeah, no, it's still new.
Like, you can't have
using
both.
Old tropes that Star Wars always uses.
You can't have both. You can't, and then it comes down. We've had this conversation of, well, so you don't want new. You want your same old stories for your generation, but they were smart enough to add a Baby Yoda for the new fans.
Which is not old. That's new.
That's new.
That's new.
The
child is
the Boba Fett already leaked, so,
Oh, that's the worst kept secret.
And it's worse because his agents are the one that let it. Very old Hollywood for the agents to leak something. I'm like, well, you don't got a Twitter?
Yeah.
Like,
sorry, can't you just, like, send out a tweet really fast?
Wait, that came from an actual That came from
A
Variety,
building?
not Twitter. That's
Yeah.
weird.
So I think it's going to be a great season. Obviously, it's coming
Looks
at the
good.
end of
Sasha
October.
Banks, whoop, whoop.
Yes, absolutely. Let's stay on the train of Disney Plus. We'll talk about some modern stuff that we just found out. WandaVision. We saw the trailer. We know that's coming out this year, and now we find out Falcon and Winter Soldier has been delayed. I mentioned it last week, good brother, when you weren't here, that simply because Black Widow hasn't been put out yet is why that show hasn't came out. Until Black Widow is out, Falcon and Winter Soldier won't come out.
Yeah.
And I think that's why it ended up getting delayed. And now we've seen WandaVision, kind of the bonkers that it's going to be. What did you think about the trailer?
Trailer looks good. I'm interested. I think you fall into two halves where it's either way too crazy that you're not going to enjoy it, or you're kind of leading into it. It is Disney at the end of the day, so I always want to tell people, as confusing as it looks, they are going to spoon feed it to you. Like, I don't think you should be that worried. Just because you don't enjoy a trailer, I would say give it a chance still, because it is the MCU no matter what. And it's the first of this kind of project. And I'm interested, since you mentioned Black Widow, the rumor of that one is they still kept they're keeping their November release date at the moment. I think it's the box office is really going to show. It comes down to, I think people say it best is movies what people really want to break their seal on. Like, obviously, I think an MCU movie is more of a test than Tenet, because even Christopher Nolan, as great of a director he is, and I'd say Tenet, it's one of my favorite movies from him, and it's the best movie of this year easily. I still don't know if that sells enough for people to be like, oh, let me risk going to theater. An MCU Black Widow, though, a Wonder Woman, I think that would. I think the movies who are very nervous in movie theaters are actually lost money by having Tenet play than made money. So I'm very fascinated, especially in the movie world. You and me are like on the dot every day of like, something's going to change. What's the next big move? Maybe their move is, hey, let's try it. Let's try it on Disney Plus. Let's try it on VOD. Maybe we make a lot of money. Or, you know what? Let's do a little bit of both. I think we're going to see both, just like we will with the trial of Chicago 7, where we'll get a slight release and then we'll get it on Disney Plus. Whereas Trial is doing a release and then Netflix.
Let's talk a little bit about that trailer. What were your thoughts? I know you're super hyped about it. It looks wonderful, but
Chicago, man.
Yeah.
It's a Chicago-based episode today, honestly.
So what were your thoughts?
It looks fantastic. We talked about this months ago because it has Chicago in it, so we looked into it. It's a great story. It's very relevant, especially about protests, and it's not even more of a race thing. It deals with the Vietnam War and these, non-colored people, quote unquote. Like, that's not the message of the movie. We are going to get that movie with David Kaluuya, so I'm excited about that. But this one looks so interesting because Sacha Baron Cohen, Yaya's in it. Like, we have so many fun actors in it. Takes place in Chicago. Joseph Gordon-Levitt's in it as a lawyer. It's really attacking more what is free speech and where do we. I like the story of, is inciting a riot. You cross state lines to incite a riot. That's what you're being charged with. But technically you were protesting. So where's the line? It's a very fascinating story. I hope we go into on Murder Mysteries and more one day. It's going to be a more part. But I can't wait to see the movie because it's a star-studded cast.
Yeah, and it just goes back to showing these companies aren't 100% sure what they should do with their films. But I think this one is one that's perfect for streaming. Let it get its release, because if you think it's going to be an Oscar contender, have it do whatever qualifications. Although I think they've changed it a little bit.
They already changed it anyway. I think they're only limited to releasing just so people can see it on the big screen. Because it is Aaron Sorkin, and Aaron Sorkin's very much, a lot of movies do need to be watched on big screen because it looks beautiful, the way they make Chicago look in the background with so many people in protest. But yeah, I think Netflix will, like last year, is going to be a very heavy favorite going in with a lot of the movies. They got the Five Bloods, and then they're going to release this also. So I think they're already going to go in with a lot of Oscar buzz for Netflix and The Devil Within.
So with that in mind, you got reviews for us, good brother. Why don't you lay them both down? You were able to watch some movies for us. Spoiler alerts for anything that you might slip for the two movies that you were able to dissect and consume.
So I'll start with a fun one since we were talking about zombies on the other show. I saw Peninsula, which is the sequel to Train to Busan.
I haven't seen it yet, so easy on the spoilers. I'm going to watch it.
There's not a lot to spoil. I guess it is a sequel in the sense where we're in the same world. And I love the first 20 minutes because we do address it and how it got to that. And, this basically takes place after Train to Busan. Like, I love Train to Busan because they merely set it up as like that was such a singular story that really doesn't carry over. This more takes... it kind of reminds me of Raid and Raid 2.
Oh, interesting.
In the sense of like where the sequel takes place and how they build on it. I didn't love this movie. I think there's 2 movies in this movie, and I think they should have made 2 more. I think they should have split this one up because you get a lot of world building. At the same time, you try to get a lot of Train to Busan singular storytelling, very personal. I think it doesn't blend as well. I was watching. The action is phenomenal. The filming is phenomenal. Like, the action is top notch zombie gore action. It was great. I didn't love the story. I like that personal story. I think Train to Busan was so good because the story was so simple and personal. Like, we're on this train, we're meeting these people, we're going town to town, and here are zombies. I love that story. I think this one tries to do that, at the same time build this whole crazy underground world, and I think toward the middle end it doesn't hit there, but the action is great. The acting is great, even for a foreign film. Like, you can, acting, critics know good acting in every language. It was great acting, very personal, calls for it, but I just feel like there's so much in there. I wanted to see 2 movies. I wish they would have done the personal story and the Peninsula story.
So it suffers from most sequels where it tries to be bigger.
It tries to do too much, and what they give you isn't bad. I just feel like you're going to feel like me. You're going to enjoy the film, and you're going to leave being like, man, you really could have split that up. Like, you could have done a story and then a B, and you could have done a trilogy here, and I would have been fine. Like, I would love to have seen a more personal story. I would have loved to have seen Train to Busan. Then this one comes out, heavy action. Here's the world we live in. Here's the underground. And then give me a personal story in part 3 about living in that world and trying to survive that world. I think I would have enjoyed that much, much more. I'll be honest, I love when movies connect a little more. Like, I wish we could have seen some characters from the first one.
But we know how the first one ended.
But it's a zombie film. Like, you already know, like, the fact that they were survivors at the end, that's good.
Yeah.
And be done.
Yeah.
So I like the movie a lot. I didn't love it as much as the first one. But Train to Busan is also one of the best zombie films of all time.
So it's a hard thing.
It's a very hard thing to live up to. My biggest thing is I wish they would have done 2 separate movies.
And what was the second review?
The Devil All the Time. And we've had a lot of trailers. It's another one on Netflix that's, I think, is getting a lot of Oscar love. Bill Skarsgård,
Rob Pattinson,
Tom Holland, Sebastian. Like, we have so many people. The Avengers are basically in this movie with it.
Yeah.
It's very funny. I like this movie quite a bit, Mike. I really enjoyed it. It's a bit of a slow burn. It's fascinating. I really can't wait till you watch this movie because it's very a mystery, and the whole storyline is it takes place. Have you ever seen Babel?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that, where one story connects to another story, connects to another story, connects to another story.
Yeah.
Eventually, we get to the end.
Do we get to a bus?
Yes, we actually did.
Okay, very cool.
But no, it's very fascinating the way they do it. I think the standouts, we can go on a heavy spoiler one day, and maybe we'll do that in a separate thing with you and me.
Yeah.
Because I want you to watch it, because you and me are really good at movies, and we make it a game. We're like, oh, got it, figured out the mystery. Like, when I'm watching Tenet, I'm like, oh, I got this.
Okay.
This movie is also one of those where, like, I think within the first 20, if you're like you and me, you'll figure out where the movie's going.
Okay.
And it builds to that.
Okay.
Pattinson's great, as usual. He always is. I think my standouts were Bill Skarsgård.
Okay.
Plays a great returning vet role, and he's the father of Tom Holland. Tom Holland, beautiful acting. Like, it's so different than what he does, but he's got such a charm to him.
Does Skarsgård really age up that much?
It's a time movie. Don't read into it.
Okay.
They don't share any screen. They don't share any screen time.
Got you. That's all I need to know.
You see what I mean?
Yes, that's all I needed to know.
Yeah, obviously it goes from Skarsgård. There's a timeline, but he is the father, and we get a young kid playing Tom Holland. But Tom Holland, as when he gets to that age, is phenomenal. Like, it's such a vulnerable role we haven't seen him in. There's not a lot of cheekiness to it. He's so good. Like, he's going to be an Oscar winner someday.
Yeah.
But those two definitely for me. I think Pattinson, he was
Seat.
good.
Yeah.
He takes a back seat to it. Like, this isn't his movie.
Yeah.
But he's so good that you're like, well, he's never bad. He's like Leo, where you're never bad in a movie. Maybe this is more Revenant for you, where I like the other guys a little better than you, but you weren't bad.
So were they filming this? He already was probably working on Tenet, and he was just getting geared up for Batman?
Because this filmed about a year and a half ago, I would assume.
Because he got Batman during Tenet.
Yeah.
Because Nolan found out. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, so he's on a roll. Skarsgård's great, and like he's already been good in TV. He's already been good as Pennywise. I joked with you, it is hard to see him smile sometimes because he can only do so much with his face, and that goes to show you how good he did as Pennywise, that a lot of that was his face acting. That even without the paint, you're like, well, that's Pennywise. Like, I can definitely tell. But if I had to pick one, Tom Holland's my standout. There's so many good actors in this movie, though. Like, it's a huge ensemble cast. I think this will get a little Oscar love also. It reminds me of Mudbound, where, you know, it's very low-key. It's not a very aggressive movie. It's a very quiet movie, very disturbing movie. I'm not talking about Requiem for a Dream disturbing, but very, very drama-filled. A lot of harder things to watch, but done very well. Very good movie. I would give Peninsula probably a 7 out of 10, and I would give The Devil 8.5.
Good, brother. We have to share some sad news. We are recording this on Wednesday, September 23rd, 2020. And before we start recording all of the stuff we're doing on the network today, we found out that 2 Chicago legends, one in the sports entertainment world and one in the sports world itself, have both left us. Gale Sayers, Hall of Fame running back, Chicago Bears legend, was mentioned on the Quarantine Files a few weeks back about Brian Song. Dies at the age of 77, and Road Warrior Animal passes away at the age of 60. They were always proclaimed from Chicago, even though, you know, that was all kayfabe. Chicago really embraced having the Road Warriors, the Legion of Doom, as their own, especially in the AWA.
Rush.
And obviously, Gale Sayers, how much he meant in the city. You know, everybody would say, yeah, you know, Walter's good. Should sing Gale Sayers. Like, that's always the legend from our fathers heard from their fathers. And, like, you know, this is a running back city. Obviously, this isn't sports from the couch, but the reason why Gale Sayers being also mentioned here, not just because of Chicago, but Brian's Song, such an important film for sports and for a lot of athletes and whatnot. So, 2 passings, 2 Chicago legends, gone.
That's a tough one for Chicago, man. It happened this morning. It happened so quick. And, you know, both weren't, you know, Gale Sayers was a little older. So that, you know, Animal was only 60.
Only 60.
That's rough, man. Yeah. Like, especially, we've lost so many wrestlers.
They've lived harder, though. That generation of wrestler lived a lot harder.
Like, we lost Rocky Johnson this year. Yeah. We lost The Fink. You know, we've lost a lot of good legends. And it always scares you in that. You know, for us, we love the Road Warriors so much. Not only are they our favorite tag team, they're Chicago-based. They're big football playing. Just,
with the
man, dude, I love the Road Warriors. Like, they were our favorites. And to finally lose Animal, and like, you know, I think someone WWE put it there, like, now he's with Hawk. Like, that gives you a little peace of mind that they're together again. And, you know, it still sucks. Very young. I know Animal had a son playing professional football. Yeah,
Laurinaitis.
You know, played Ohio State. You know, he was
played
just
in the league.
Yeah, no, he played for the Rams for a while when they were good. Like, Animal was such a staple of Chicago. You always saw him at Wrigley. Always saw him at Bears games. Like, he was such a standout where people knew the Road Warriors who didn't know wrestling. Yeah. But you knew Animal. You knew, like, oh, that's the wrestler with the pads. Like, I remember, like, he rode the motorcycles, and there was 2 of them. And, man, dude, that one sucked. Like, Animals definitely probably are one of my favorite wrestlers of all time, and the Road Warriors are my favorite tag team of all time. So that one definitely is it was a tough one. And Gale Sayers, you know, you think of Brian's Song, you think of, I wouldn't say living in the shadow of Walter Payton, but it's always kind of like, we always tend to forget in that conversation that Gale Sayers was next level. Like, obviously Walter Payton is one of the best backs of all time. Gale Sayers is very good too.
And he was so good that even with his career cut short because of ACL surgeries, mind you, they didn't have microscopic surgeries or anything like that.
That was career ending back then, not season ending.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, one of the best. So up in the next phase of whatever universe we're in, the Road Warriors are no-selling angels, and Gale Sayers is juking his way to the end zone. And we had another loss, good brother, that we want to mention here. We're not going to get too deep into it because it deals more with the political end of it, but also because of an Oscar-winning film based about her, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, one of the justices of the Supreme Court. We lost her a few days back, so
it really isn't even political. Like, the woman did a lot for women's rights. Like, I think it's something as simple as, I will say this one thing: women couldn't have a credit card without a man co-signing, and she made it okay. She passed that. And so to me, I'm like, it's not political. Like, she gave women rights, not black women, white women. All women have the rights they do these days, and still it's not as many as they should, honestly. Sure. But because of her. And I think people have given enough time to grieve, obviously political-wise, of filling that seat. That's not this show. That's more Mike doing his smart people thing in the professional world. Mm-hmm. But for us, like, she did so much for everyone, I think. Like, just she's a human rights activist, and I think she will be missed. And, you know, it was just, obviously, I think the worst thing is terrible timing, man. Like, you wish she could have gone another 2 months, you know?
And with that, make sure you are registered to vote, everybody. That is your right. And if you are born in this country, make sure you exercise that right. Register.
You can vote for the Marshmallow Man. Just vote. Well, okay, really, don't write in because that could ruin your vote. Yeah. But yes, you should vote. Whether you're an elephant or a donkey, please vote.
Good brother, before we head out of here, I just want your thoughts. What did you think about the pricing of the Xbox and the PlayStation, all the drama that has been, their pre-orders, crashing systems?
Yeah, fill me in a little bit on that, because I heard the price. Well, the price didn't seem that bad.
Yeah, it's
but I have been hearing a lot of drama with availability.
It's availability. A lot of people were buying Xbox One X, and that's not the Xbox Series X. So a lot of people were buying that. A lot of people were crashing. Some people were being overbooked. So you were getting emails saying that we oversold this item.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard people were like, I bought it, I paid for it, but they still said I'm not getting one. So I thought that was interesting.
So I'm getting both systems. I always say I am waiting.
All right, Daddy Warbox. Yes, which one am I getting? Can I have the old ones?
I am definitely going PlayStation first.
I am too, actually.
And all of that is just strictly because of first party right now.
And a Blu-ray.
But Microsoft bought Bethesda. So that means Doom, Elder Scrolls, The Evil Within, anything that
they're getting their library up. They heard you, people. I'll give them this. They heard you. They're going to come out hot. But yes, I'm with you. Because I think that's going to be a few years away before we get anything good. I'm going to PS5. I have never been a PS person. Like, in our family, I would get Nintendo and Mike would handle everything else. So I think it's like I would do the GameCube and the Wii's and all that stuff as when we were kids. So Mike would usually be the one to get the PlayStations and the Xboxes.
I went from 64 and I jumped to PlayStation. We both got the GameCube. From then on, you were much more of a GameCuber.
Yeah, I kind of ran off that, and then the Wii.
We both had the PlayStation 2.
Yeah.
And then I got an Xbox for Christmas, and then I've always been both.
Well, it was always easy with three brothers, because then Marcos got a PS3 one year, so we didn't have to get one. And you got an X. Then eventually, when we all weren't living together, you kind of had to start picking. You tend to get them all anyway, since you are in that field. Yeah. So for me, someone who doesn't buy all the systems anymore, my last one was an Xbox One.
Yeah.
And I don't regret that, because all the games I enjoy, I do like playing on that. But going forward, I'm like, this is a big investment for me. I haven't had a new system in a long time. I am going to go PS5. It's my first Sony system, and I'm very excited about it, because I love the PS2, but after PS2, I really haven't been a Sony guy. But man, the PS5 with their exclusives and the Blu-ray and all the
Ragnarok,
all the little things, it looks good. So I'm personally going PS5 also.
Yeah, so it should be a lot of fun. We have God of War Ragnarok. We have Spider-Man Miles Morales, and so many other great things down the pipeline. We saw Resident Evil 8 Village, some more of that. So good times are coming in the video game world. But with that, good brother, any final notes you want to hit on today? Anything else that you think we might have missed on this episode of the Good Brothers?
No, a lot of wrestling happened, but nothing too important that we need to go into.
I mean, we
have a pay-per-view coming up.
You are absolutely right, good brother. So you know what? Why don't we go ahead and put our feet to the fire? We'll make some predictions for a pay-per-view that I could care less about, especially after seeing Retribution.
What's funny is I think the pay-per-view is going to be a banger.
Of course.
But yeah, man, that Retribution really took the air out of me.
Everything.
And like, I don't think it's ruined. Like, I think it could be good still.
Because
but it definitely was like, you could have just took the mask off and made him people.
Yeah.
And I'm still on the whole, well, isn't that Keith Lee's wife and best friend? Like, are we not going to address the, like, she beat him up? You know what I mean? Like, WWE is in this weird state of, like, sometimes it's so real, but then we don't acknowledge these things, but we want to acknowledge these, and like social media is so rampant. I do think AEW is putting on a good program right now. I think they're the best wrestling right now, and it's taken me a long time to get there. Yeah, it's one of those two. I think any given week, I think SmackDown last week, the week before AEW, you know, it switches off. I think NXT is very much struggling. I think Raw is very much struggling too.
Raw is struggling the hardest.
Yeah, I think NXT is struggling the hardest.
I disagree both.
I think NXT right now they're in such a limbo. I think if they can just move, they need that Full Sail audience, and they need to move to Tuesdays.
That's the big one.
Which
I think
they
need
will,
Lucha,
and I
yeah.
think both companies will see a rise in numbers because AEW, as good as they're doing, when NXT came back, their numbers went back down to the 800s, and they just busted 1 million once. So it goes to show you where no, you didn't. You hit 1 million because there was no competition. When there is comp, you're doing well, but you're not. I think both of you are hitting better numbers when you're not. Because when NXT was on Tuesday, the week they did really well,
they did well.
Their numbers did well too. So I think it goes to show you, listen, you only can have a dick hanging contest when both your dicks are huge.
Yeah, and the
right now
contest,
your numbers are not doing really well.
Yeah, great analogy, good brother.
That's like, to me, it's like neither of you are doing very good numbers. Yeah. Why are we measuring? Like you go to Tuesday to do good, you stay here to do good, and you're both hitting 1 million now. Look how fast that happened.
And why don't we go ahead and talk about the show and make predictions? In the pre-show, Asuka defends the Raw Women's Championship against Zelina Vega.
I like that Zelina Vega's getting a chance.
Sure, but why in the pre-show?
Because it's going to be a burial probably.
Yeah,
or it's going to be a squash match.
Yes.
But I do appreciate, and listen, I'm never going to doubt a pre-show because in the last 5 years, New Days and Usos showed us,
That's fair.
hey, the pre-show might have the best match of the night.
That's fair.
You can have a 4-star match on a pre-show.
So, Asuka?
Yeah. Plus, since it's all in the same spot, no audience anyway, there really is no pre-show. It's just the match that goes on at 6 instead of 7.
That's fair. Bobby Lashley defends the United States Championship against Apollo Crews.
Why are we still doing this?
I don't know. I'm going with Lashley.
But I do like the
Hurt Business.
I do like the Hurt Business. I wish they would put Apollo Crews in there, but they got
Cedric.
They got Cedric, so I'm cool with it. So yeah, Apollo Crews. Or not, I mean, sorry, Bobby Lashley.
The Street Profits take on Andrade and Angel Garza for the 150th time for the WWE Raw Tag Team Championship. If Andrade and Angel Garza don't win or really split up, I have no idea.
They got to really split up, right? Like they have to at this point. Like
watch them put the title on them.
I could see that, but at this point, it's like, why didn't you just do it at SummerSlam when you had the chance? But I love the Street Profits. So I really
love all of these guys.
We need a draft, man. We need to move some people around soon.
So
who do you got? I have no idea. I'm going to say
Street Profits.
I'm going to get Street Profits, and they finally break them up because I think they're going to move one of them.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go with Street Profits.
There's a trade. Remember, Mandy Rose came to Raw, so storyline wise, someone's got to go to SmackDown. I really hope they send Andrade or Angel.
Yeah.
Just send one of them away. Because like you said, at this point, you got to do one or the other. If they just win the titles, I'm going to be like, oh, that sucks.
No, I agree.
So I'm going to say Street Profits.
Let's talk about the other tag team championship over on SmackDown. And Cesaro and Shinsuke Nakamura defend their title against Lucha House Party, Kalisto, Grand Metalik, and or Lindsay Dorado. Kalisto turns heel. Cesaro and Shinsuke win.
We need a good luchador heel gimmick.
Yeah. Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler defend the Women's Tag Team Championship against the Riot Squad.
I like those two together.
I like all of them all together.
Yeah, obviously they're going to win and kill. Poor Lana, man, they are just beating her up. But hey, what did you think was going to happen, man? He came out right against them. And
super hard.
Yeah, but obviously they're married. I'm sure they talked about it. But yeah, what are you going to do, you know?
TV.
Hey, she getting paid to put through table.
Doesn't matter.
She got sponsored by Bang Energy, so she fine.
Bayley defends her SmackDown Women's Championship against Nikki Cross after beating down Mandalorian star Sasha Banks over the last few weeks.
This will be our main event of a pay-per-view coming up.
Because Bayley
I
wins.
think it might be our first single. Well, if Sasha Banks getting this Mandalorian pop, if it's a big role, I could see this being the first singles main event of WrestleMania, woman on woman.
Maybe. At the very least, they're going to be in. I think they might get inside that Hell in a Cell structure.
Have they done a Hell in a Cell? No, that was Charlotte.
Charlotte and Sasha did that one. So they might do that one. So we're both going Bayley? Mm-hmm. Why don't we go to what
Iron Woman match? Probably,
or maybe,
something like that, something fun. But I think they should. I think the goal is a main event, and I think they're building it great. But it's a great storyline.
One of maybe my favorite match of the night: Jeff Hardy, AJ Styles, Sami Zayn, triple threat ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship.
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. I agree.
I think he's going to get a nice push. I think now they're like, oh, we get your character. Like, your character's actually really relevant these days.
Unless they love it so much that they move it to the main event scene.
Maybe.
I don't know. Oh, these next two ones. We'll go with Drew McIntyre defends the WWE Championship in an ambulance match against Randy Orton.
I don't care. Drew McIntyre, sure. I don't care. It's not for a title, right?
It is for the WWE Championship.
Then, yeah, Drew McIntyre's not losing the title to Randy, dude. Like, we're just killing time.
I don't know, because where does Keith Lee come into all this?
Do you think Keith Lee's going heel?
I don't know, because I'll be honest with you.
I could see Keith Lee going heel.
I've been going Keith Lee winning the Rumble, but I can see them giving it to Big E. So I don't
Maybe.
know where you put.
I'm going to go McIntyre because I don't think it's going to be a huge swerve. I'm just going to go McIntyre.
I'll go Orton.
You're going to go Orton?
I'll go Orton.
Man, you've been writing Orton since SummerSlam.
Yeah, I'll
you
go
really
Orton.
hope that turns out to be right, huh?
I just think at some point it has to. Like
we say that, but we're also saying a lot on this card, tendency of this is like the 5th time these guys have faced each other. Yeah. So for me, it's like, why would it be any different?
No,
like,
it's fair.
Every other match is done for the 5th time, too.
I'll just do the sports analogy. At some point, it's got to lose.
Sometime, hopefully.
Yeah. And I love Drew McIntyre and Randy Orton. I'm just saying, like, at some point,
I
with
just
the
feel like
storyline.
he's going to ride it out a little longer, so.
Unless Keith Lee puts them both in the ambulance.
Something like that. Like, I just don't think Drew McIntyre's dropping the title.
Speaking of not dropping the title, but what I think is going to be an awesome storyline match.
Yep.
Roman Reigns with Paul Heyman defend the WWE Universal Championship against Jey Uso.
That's Big E's title, right? Like, that's the thing. I'm assuming, like, Big E will beat the one that beat Roman. And where does the Fiend come in?
I don't know. Because the Fiend's got this thing with Alexa Bliss.
Yeah.
So I don't think the title is on his main concern.
No, I think they're
Braun is going against Baba Kato.
Yeah, but to be fair, I always look at Braun's title of like, for his career, you had to give it to him. And this was really staple. Like, okay, he's one of the best. He is. He'll go down. Like, he was huge. His stuff with Roman was great. His stuff with Lesnar was great. It's always going to be the guy that, like, he could have had a year run had you done it when you were supposed to. Yeah. Had he just gone over Lesnar. You obviously waited too long. The stigma was gone, but you still had to give him a title.
Yeah.
So I'm not mad about it, but we're back at, well, what do you really do with him now?
Yeah, and that's going to be the frustrating thing with him because you can't build him weak. You can't build him too strong because you have other guys that you want to put the title on. I think it all depends on the Big E thing. Mm-hmm. If they really want to push Big E, who do you want to really put him over?
Are we going to have a draft? Because the rumors are like draft. And we are around that time of year where we could see it, like heading into winter and Survivor Series. So I could see them doing a couple changes, and that's going to affect everything too.
So obviously Roman Reigns wins this one.
Yeah.
Does he go super heel in this match?
I think he'll super heel in
very
this
cool.
match, which is what we need him to do.
And that's it, good brother. We have done everything. Everything is in the books. We will keep our eyes on Clash of Champions. We will keep our eye on anything that drops in the pop culture world when it comes to breaking news. And, of course, we'll have some reviews for you next week.
Yeah.
Any final thoughts, good brother?
Final thoughts.
Follow him on Twitter at Mercado21Alex. I'm on Twitter at Mike and Media. The show's on Twitter at Good Brothers Pod. We're on Patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves if you'd like to sponsor us and help out the network. Teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag.
When in doubt, Merc it out.
Teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like, rate, review, and shares wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves. For the good brother himself, Alex Mercado.
Adios.
I'm the good brother, Mike Mercado. We'll see you on the next episode of The Good Brothers here on the Mercado Airwaves
Network.
Thanks for joining us here on The Good Brothers, here on Mercado Airwaves.